What's happening, YouTube? Aunt Pruitt here. Hope you're doing well. Another unbelievable day here in the sunny, cloudy, about to have a storm south area. Just dropped off the hardhead to his job. I gotta tell you, boy, it feels good to finally have an extra income coming up into the family. Because, yeah, no more handouts for this boy. I love it. But I wanted to holler at y'all and ask you about your first job. No, I'm not asking where your first job was, because that would be a breach in your security. Yes, that is a typical question on internet forums and stuff like that. Where was your first job? So I'm not going to ask you that. But I will share my experience with my first job. All I'll say is my first job was somewhere that allowed me to work on the weekends only. And I didn't get to work during the week because I played ball. You know, I had practice and I had games and all of that stuff. So working during the week was it just wasn't going to happen. And I remember going through the run-of-the-mill stuff, all of the cleaning and whatnot, and emptying trash and all of that, and just thinking, good gosh, this is not cool. This is not fun at all. And then it got to the point where working on the weekend means you work an extended shift because the facility was open a lot longer. You know, it wasn't closing at 10 o'clock. It wasn't closing at 11 o'clock. It was closing more like at midnight or later, you know, depending on the place where you worked. And so that meant for a little bit of time, my mother would have to come pick me up from this job at 1, 2 in the morning on the weekends when she'd been working all day long, tired. I know she was tired. Not to mention the fact that I would get in her car smelling like God knows what because my clothes would just be full of all of the herbs and spices of the job, and sometimes soaking wet from washing dishes and whatnot. I gotta tell you, I have no idea how I could just come out completely soaked from my job back in the days. And then I remember getting that first paycheck. I can't remember the exact dollar amount, but I do remember it was next to nothing. It was like, it might have been like $60, if that. And back then, that was a lot of money to a teenager, I guess. At least, it was a lot of money to me at the time. But when I look at it now, I'm like, ooh, they paid me in peanuts, you know. I want to say the minimum wage was like $4 and something an hour, something crazy like that. But you couple that with the fact that I was only able to work the weekends, and it wasn't like I worked the whole weekend. Sometimes it was just, it might have been Friday and Saturday, or it might have just been Saturday only, you know, just whatever was available for this teenager. But it took a little while to get used to that and get into the flow of it, and I finally got into the flow of it, and summer rolled around, and I got to work a few additional hours because in the summertime, if I wasn't in school and at practice, I was training. I was trying to work out and get better at my skills and whatnot, and, you know, get ready for college. And, you know, so I was still somewhat limited on my hours. And I remember, you know, spending a little more time there and finally getting to know the people on the job, and learning more about the managers that were there, and learning more about my coworkers, because all of them were teenagers and doing the same thing that I was doing, with the exception of they wasn't necessarily dealing with training or other extracurricular activities. So it was interesting to see their perspective and see how they were working all the time and had these really big checks and was just partying it up and living it up and whatnot. While me, on the other hand, I had to make sure I had enough money to put into the church, and also make sure I had enough money to pay the house water bill, because that was my duty. My mom made it very clear, starting out, you're going to be responsible to pay the water bill every month. And she wasn't playing, because I had to drive to this company and pay that bill in person myself every month. And I appreciate her doing that. That's just a way of getting me prepared for handling business when you got older. Anyway, tell me a little bit about your first experience with going into the workforce, especially if it was, you know, during the teen years. Because I know not everybody was able to work as a high school teenager. I know that. Some people didn't have to, some people weren't obligated to. Different reasons, different variables, whatever. Leave a comment below, let me know. Thank you again for watching. As always, be sure to click like, be sure to click subscribe, tell a friend, tell an enemy, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. It's good talking to you. Deuces.